In this discussion, students try to clarify areas of confusion among themselves. They puzzle through complicated scientific ideas and ask their peers for help. They wrestle with questions ranging from the definitional, what is organic, to the societal level, how does policy get created? In this discussion, students mention cisgenic organisms, which are organisms that contain a mixture of genes from within the species. Transgenic organisms contain a mixture of genes that come from other species.
The article brought up a question, the question like whether or not it was okay to plant these plants that could compete with natural plants via like transgenic or cisgenic techniques. Because would it be better to plant plants that are cisgenic? Would they compete as much as a plant that had transgenic genes, or since it's natural, would it be okay just to plant plants that were cisgenic?
I think they're afraid of crossing the species because they're it's organic versus genetically modified, and I don't really understand the pros and cons of organic foods versus genetically modified, because technically if you genetically modified something, I assume it's gonna make it better. I don't know why, because there really isn't harmful chemicals being created because you're not really introducing any particular pesticides or anything. But I think they're afraid of the genetically modified spreading their genes to the other organic plants.
And I think they're also a little bit worried about genetic diversity. I mean, if all the plants are the same, and then you get this new, climate change introduces a new environmental factor, and none of these plants can deal with it. Then you have to deal with all of the plants having to adjust, and they're not qualified. And because there's no genetic diversity, they won't be able to adjust as quickly.
But I don't know, on the fourth page, the last page of our reading, they make the point that even if organic plants get some of the genetically modified genes in the process, they technically can still be called organic. So when I was reading it, I was just kind of thinking what's the problem then if the genetically modified plants the organic plants are being planted organically, and if some genetically modified plants, the pollen is getting into the organic plants, but they're still able to be called organic, why is there such a big issue with this?
I think it's only 0.1% of the seeds can be transgenic seeds.
Well, it depends on the
Well, yeah, it depends.
the
There's a
plant.
couple different ranges for different plants, but I think the point is that you can't unless if they're not in that margin, that really tiny margin for how the percentage of the plants that are transgenics, then they can't sell that and reap high organic food prices.
I have a similar question. How as Lydia's, how do they make up these standards? Well, it doesn't say. It says the U.S. doesn't really have one, but how do some countries decide what percent is all right for it to be called organic for certain?
Some, it says in the second column that some organic buyers refuse to buy any foods that have any percent of the genetically modified genes. So I think that they probably have to take into consideration the money that they would possibly be losing from the buyers.